Where will Nvidia stock be in 10 years? I'll provide the bull case and the bear case, 4 different scenarios, extreme bull to extreme bear. We'll also look at some recent developments from Nvidia. We'll break down Nvidia by revenue segment. We'll listen to a couple of clips from CEO Jensen Huang, and we'll do a deep dive into some of the most important valuation metrics for Nvidia. As you already know, Nvidia has been a top performer in 2023, gaining more than 194% year to date. $1,000 invested in Nvidia 10 years ago, back in 2013, would be worth over $115,000 today. But you don't care about the past, you care about where Nvidia stock is headed. So where will Nvidia stock be in 2033? Of course, Nvidia has been on a tear because of artificial intelligence, AI. And Nvidia has a winning edge over its peers in the AI space, and I'm going to show you why. Nvidia's services include AI supercomputers, algos, data processing, and training modules. Nvidia also has an edge in AI services across several industries, and they continue to innovate. This infographic breaks down Nvidia's revenue worldwide from 2015 to 2023 by segment. Nvidia got its start creating hardware, graphics chips for video games. But the company now is much more than that, creating not only AI hardware, but also AI software for secular growth trends like robotics, autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, and more. And you can see on your screen, back in 2017, it was all GPU. And really through 2019, it was all GPU. In 2020, you start to see the compute and networking grow. And that green color there is that compute networking. You can see that's become the largest segment of Nvidia's revenue. So is Nvidia stock going higher? You can see a couple clips in your screen. Nvidia's CPUs control 95 to 100% of the market for computer training. You also see other statistics online like 90%. I'm going to use 90% as the assumption. Because of explosive growth in AI demand, Nvidia management expects data center sales to register rapid growth throughout 2023. And this is driven by that new AI as a service business model that we've talked about here on the channel. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss future videos like this one. And Nvidia has its hands in lots of other pots as well, and I'll go through some of those here in this video. In addition to working with every major hyperscale cloud provider, we are engaged with many consumer internet companies, enterprises, and startups. The opportunity is significant and driving strong growth in the data center that will accelerate throughout this year. Additionally, cloud adoption continues to accelerate. Full year data center revenue growth was mainly driven by meaningful partnerships with cloud services providers. And later in the video, I'll show you a clip of one of those examples. These cloud partners continue to contribute to the segment's growth by offering AI as a service and enabling access to several NVIDIA offerings. This is going to accelerate NVIDIA's growth exponentially because it allows NVIDIA to tap into existing customer relationships with these partners. A quote from Jensen Huang: "Software is eating the world, but AI is going to eat software." And there's a picture showing you what an H100 looks like. This is 9 times faster than the A100 and 30x faster than comparative transformer-based large language models. And you may recall last March on this channel, I told you just how big this was going to be.
Today, we are announcing the next generation. The engine of the world's AI computing infrastructure makes a giant leap.
This stuff right here, guys, I'm telling you, as someone who's really into technology, I can just nerd out on this stuff. I mean, we are going to a whole nother stratosphere when you look at the H100 chips and what these things can do.
To put it in perspective, 20 H100s can sustain the equivalent of the entire world's internet traffic.
And NVIDIA has been my highest conviction stock since I went long in 2018. I want to share with you just how big this opportunity is. So I'm going to show you a clip from CEO Jensen Huang at his keynote at GTC 2023.
NVIDIA accelerated computing starts with DGX, the world's AI supercomputer, the engine behind the large language model breakthrough. I hand-delivered the world's first DGX to OpenAI. Since then, half of the Fortune 100 companies have installed DGX AI supercomputers. DGX has become the essential instrument of AI. The GPU of DGX is 8 H100 modules. H100 has a transformer engine designed to process models like the amazing ChatGPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. The 8 H100 modules are NV-linked to each other across NV-link switches to allow fully non-blocking transactions. The 8 H100s work as one giant GPU. The computing fabric is one of the most vital systems of the AI supercomputer. 400 gigabits per second, ultra-low latency, NVIDIA Quantum InfiniBand with in-network processing connects hundreds and thousands of DGX nodes into an AI supercomputer. NVIDIA DGX H100 is the blueprint for customers building AI infrastructure worldwide. It is now in full production. I am thrilled that Microsoft announced Azure is opening private previews to their H100 AI supercomputer. Other systems and cloud services will soon come from Atos, AWS, Cirruscale, CoreWeave, Dell, Gigabyte, Google, HPE, Lambda, Lenovo, Oracle, Quanta, and Supermicro. The market for DGX AI supercomputers has grown significantly. Originally used as an AI research instrument, DGX AI supercomputers are expanding into operations, running 24/7 to refine data and process AI. DGX supercomputers are modern AI factories. We are at the iPhone moment of AI.
So we know that NVIDIA is a leader for AI semiconductors. Software is the next phase of growth, also automotive, which really is slept on. NVIDIA's enterprise AI software, which essentially serves as the operating system for AI, will be very difficult for competitors to replicate. Even if they can match the company's hardware, it's going to be very difficult to match this ecosystem they've built. And this will ensure that NVIDIA holds a top position in AI for years to come. And you've seen this stat on the channel before. The NVIDIA AI TAM is $600 billion. What many people don't realize is that only half of that is in hardware. $300 billion of that TAM is hardware. The other $300 billion is in software. NVIDIA also has an automotive segment, and it's really in early stages. So think of autonomous driving and many other applications. And this is a $300 billion total addressable market. If you want me to do a deep dive specifically on this segment, drop me a comment below and let me know. And I mentioned earlier, NVIDIA has their hands in lots of different pots. There's about $100 billion in additional total addressable market in those other segments. So if you add all those up, $1 trillion in total addressable market. So we're trying to predict where NVIDIA stock is going to be in 10 years. So let's look at the previous 10 years. So 10 years ago, NVIDIA finished their fiscal 2013 with revenue of only $4.28 billion. And in fiscal 2023, essentially 2022, the company's top line reached nearly $27 billion. So NVIDIA's revenue has multiplied sixfold in the past 10 years. But this is all before the AI acceleration. Think of NVIDIA as a new business. It's a completely different business than it was in 2013. So the historical information is not really all that relevant. AI is a game changer. So let's look at GPUs. Statistics show that NVIDIA controls over 90% of the market for enterprise GPUs that are deployed in data centers, supercomputers, and cloud computing. The global CPU market is expected to expand tenfold, so 10x over the next decade, generating $400 billion in revenue in 2032 compared to $40 billion last year. Now, this data is from last year, and I've seen estimates that are much higher than $400 billion looking out to 2032. I've seen numbers ranging from $500 billion to $1 trillion plus, but we're going to use $400 billion to be conservative, and we're going to use 2033, so even a year longer than what this stat is showing us. So NVIDIA's revenue of $27 billion for fiscal year 2023. Now, fiscal year ended on January 29th of this year. Suggests that the company controls more than 2/3 of the space. Next, let's look at software as a service. Back in 2022 on their investor day, NVIDIA mentioned that its recurring software and services revenue are currently at an annual run rate in the low hundreds of millions. This implies that NVIDIA's current software revenue is less than 2% of top line. And NVIDIA's high margin software revenue as a percentage of total sales could potentially rise from those low single digits to the high teens over the next 10 years. This will help drive an increase in NVIDIA's overall profit margins for the next decade. And of course, higher profit margins help support a higher valuation. I mentioned earlier about NVIDIA's partnerships. And NVIDIA is partnering not only with the large hyperscalers like with the Amazon Web Services, the Google Cloud Platforms, the Microsoft Azures, and so on, but also companies like Snowflake to bring AI to existing customers. customers. And this will accelerate growth and adoption. Check out this clip from NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang at the Snowflake Summit with Snowflake CEO Frank Slootman.
And for the very first time, if you data warehouse, we're going to connect an AI factory next to it. And you're going to be producing intelligence, the most valuable commodity the world's ever produced. You are sitting on a gold mine of natural resources, your company's data, proprietary data. We're now going to connect it to an AI engine. And you're going to, on the other end of that, is just intelligence spewing out every single day. Unbelievable amounts of intelligence coming out the other end, even while you sleep. This is the best thing ever. So if you're a Snowflake customer, as many are, Frank and I are going to help you turn your data into intelligence.
Next, let's look at some charts that I put together looking at valuation metrics. Not only historic metrics, but also forward metrics like forward PE. And then I'll provide you with 4 scenarios of where NVIDIA stock could be in the next 10 years. Before I do that, if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel and click that bell for notifications. I'm trying to get this channel to over 50,000 subscribers in 2023, and you can help me out by subscribing today. And if this video is useful, drop me a like and drop me a comment below. And I do need to announce that this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. If you'd like to see the 10 best stocks to buy now, visit fool.com/firedupwealth. You can also join our private community Patreon Discord by visiting patreon.com/firedupwealth. A reminder that Motley Fool does not tell me what to create or what to tell you. I'm independent. They're a great partner. Check those guys out. And I would love to talk with you directly in Discord, so join us today. So let's look at the 10-year price and revenue TTM. So the purple line is the NVIDIA stock price. And you can see that's a straight line up. That's basically parabolic. That's one of the most insane moves I've seen on a stock of this size in a very long time. And the orange line is going to be the revenue TTM. And you can see that has accelerated along with the share price. These charts help you visualize what's going on with the stock and why the stock price has done what it's done. And this is the 10-year market cap. It's going to look very similar to, of course, the stock price. NVIDIA's market cap is now over $1 trillion. This is the 10-year price to sales ratio. You can see it was under 12, closer to 10, and it ripped all the way up to 40. And here's the PE ratio. Now, this is a trailing 12-month PE ratio, so keep that in mind. Right now, it says 219.69. This is a very important slide right here. This is the forward PE, and it's a 54, which isn't dirt cheap, but it's actually cheaper today than it was over a year ago. You can see May of 2022. So if you go back to, say, February, March, you're up over 80, close to 100 PE ratio going back about 14 months. So NVIDIA's recent earnings report and that forward guidance is very strong. Now, this is the PE ratio forward 1 year, and this is sitting just under a 42. So if we want to figure out where the stock is going to be in 10 years, we have to try to predict how much revenue NVIDIA will bring in 2033. So let's look at the GPU market. We talked earlier, $400 billion in 10 years, and I think that's a conservative number. Now, the flip side of that, the bear argument, is that this is going to be commoditized and maybe that market won't be as large. But we are going to use $400 billion because it is one of the more conservative numbers I've seen. So earlier we said that NVIDIA controls about 90% of the GPU market. Let's be conservative again and assume that NVIDIA loses market share to competition, but they still control 50% of that market share, so half of $400 billion, which is $200 billion. Plus, we need to add in that recurring software revenue and higher margins. Let's just assume that NVIDIA gains a third of that AI software TAM we talked about earlier. That TAM was $300 billion. Let's assume they get $100 billion in 10 years. And then automotive, we said, was the $300 billion TAM. Let's also assume they only get 1/3 of that TAM for $100 billion in revenue. And earlier we said other segments were about $100 billion in TAM. Let's use $50 billion or half of that. So if you add all those up, the total would be $450 billion in revenue in 10 years for NVIDIA. But let's be conservative again, and let's assume that NVIDIA only gets $350 billion in revenue instead of $450 billion. So market cap, NVIDIA trades at about 17 times sales. That's the 5-year average price to sales ratio. So there is a premium valuation baked in, and that could fade over time, but the margins will also increase. So I think it's safe to assume 17 times sales because those two metrics will balance each other out. Now, before I go on, guys, of course, this is speculation. Nobody has a crystal ball, and I don't know with 100% certainty where NVIDIA stock is going to be. I'm trying to use data to make an educated hypothesis of 4 different scenarios for you, okay? So if NVIDIA kept that same historic price to sales ratio, that would put NVIDIA at around $5.9 trillion market cap. Over 500% higher from where it's trading now. Again, it's about $1 trillion market cap and really closer to 600%. So where will NVIDIA stock be in 10 years? Here are the 4 different scenarios, 4 possibilities. And this is not financial advice, simply speculation. Nobody can predict the future. So the extreme bull case is going to be $10 trillion or 10x. So essentially going from a $1 trillion market cap to $10 trillion. Because if you remember earlier, I was purposely trying to be conservative. So I think on the extreme bull case, $10 trillion. I'm not saying it's going to happen with certainty. I'm saying it's a possibility. The bull case, $6 trillion or 6x from where it's at now. The bear case, I think it's still a $3 trillion company in 10 years. That's 3x higher than today. In the extreme bear case, I think $2 trillion, it's still going to be double where it's at today. $2 trillion market cap by 2033. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click that bell for notifications. Drop me a like. Drop me a comment. I appreciate your time and attention. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.